Welcome 2023. If there's something to say about 2023 so far, we're green. Everything is green. So Santa left us with a Santa rally, and we had only 4 trading days. Let's summarize the week. Let's look at the major articles or the biggest headlines this week, and then dive in. Get prepared for next week, which is going to be a CPI week. The beginning of earnings releases for Q4. It's going to be exciting times. Are you ready to summarize week number 1 in 2023? Here we go. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Micha Stocks from the channel Stock Talk with Micha Stocks, and I try to bring you everything that is hot in the stock market. Everything is in our YouTube channel, which right now has over 1,000 subscribers. So thank you for every one of you that's watching these videos all the way to the end and getting a better understanding on what is going on in the stock market. If you haven't subscribed yet, this would be a great opportunity to click that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the content, it would be even amazing if you can smash that like button. Let's summarize the week, starting with the major averages. Major averages, the Russell 2000 ended the week on the green side, plus 1.5. Then the Dow Jones 1.27, S&P 1.2, and only the NASDAQ triple Qs under 1%, 0.89. A very good start for the year. I'm good ending the year here. Just kidding. But at least a year that starts green is good, don't you think? This is how the crypto market looks like. Bitcoin up 1.6% for the week. ETH up 4% for the week. When we look at the different U.S. sectors, we can see communication services leading the pack with a 5% gain during week number 1. Healthcare at the end of the pack, almost zero, minus 0.13. And energy came out green, but still a very low performance for this year, at least now. But we remember energy was the number 1 performer in 2022. So these are the major sectors in the S&P 500, and this is the heat map. As you can see, we can see a lot of green across the screen. But let's talk about the red for a second. Microsoft down 5.5% without any good reason. So far, we'll probably hear the news in the next few days. We can see the health services actually red on the week. Most of the companies there losing a lot of their support on the technicals and on the charts themselves. And of course, Tesla with a lot of news, good and bad, down another 5%, which is a continuation of 2022. When we try to figure out what happened on Friday, which was a crazy trading day, we started almost dipping to the negative. NASDAQ was negative up until 9:46, and then all the computers kicked in and analyzing the jobs report and pushing everything forward. And if you want to know why, this is the reason. U.S. non-farm payroll came on the actuals 223,000 versus 263, which means that the growth of employees wasn't as high as expected. But the biggest reason why we went up was actually the distribution between non-farm payrolls, which is the blue line. The brown line is employment level, and the yellow line is full-time. I'll explain this for a second. So, yes, we do see a slight increase in payrolls. But, and this is the big but, and this is why the market, or probably why the market rallied. The only lines that went up, as you can see, are the employment level, which are not full-time. You can see the yellow is the full-time. Full-time actually didn't increase, which means that part-time are the ones that increased. Now, this might have 2 explanations or 3 explanations. Explanation number 1 is more people go back to the workforce. But if they're going back, why aren't they going full-time? So that's not a good explanation. Another alternative to that explanation is credit cards, and we see that from credit data, are starting to be maximized, and people are starting to get a second job. But you can't get 2 full-time jobs. So you're getting some other job, which is not a full-time job. That's why we see the increase. And the reason why it rallied the market on Friday is because this is another sign for the Fed that actually the labor market isn't as tight as it seems, actually the consumer is having a hard time. And when consumer is having a hard time, it means that something is going to break. And if something is going to break, it means that the Fed is going to pivot. And that is what the big banks actually forecast for 2023. Big banks predict a recession, which we've heard already. It's probably the most predicted recession ever, but they also predict a pivot. Now, if you think that the recession, they're right on the recession, you cannot think that they're wrong on the pivot, right? Because they can't be right and wrong at the same time. So if they're wrong both. If they're right both. So those are the big banks. And also we got on Wednesday the FOMC minutes. Now there's always the disclaimer. The FOMC minutes, which are the summary of a meeting that was held 2 weeks ago, is a very engineered document that isn't really a summary. It's more of what we as the Fed, what is the PR we want as the Fed to go out. So everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt. They're saying, Fed officials are saying, they see higher rates for some time ahead. A lot of Fed officials came out from Wednesday onward to Friday saying we see rates at 5.4 like Kashkari, and even 5 to 7 like Bullard. But at the end of the day, the equity market and the bond market, at this point, they don't believe the Fed. Now, if you believe you should not fight the Fed, then rates are going to go higher. If you believe you should fight the Fed, like the bond market and the equity market, then pivot is in the cards. I didn't come from the future, so I have no idea what the right answer is, but I do know that now would be a very good time to summarize the week. Go over all the headlines. See what were the major news headlines for this week. Let's start with the FDA. FDA approved Alzheimer's drug. That was approved on Friday. It slows down cognitive decline, and it was approved in a clinical trial. This means that Biogen, ticker BIIB, gets a lot of tailwind, and 2023 is going to be dominated with a lot of DNA sequencing drugs. There are about 1,000 different clinical trials, different stages, that some of the results we're going to start seeing during 2023, and we're going to see a lot of excitement in that field. These drugs are usually very expensive, and one of the avenues that these companies are going to start looking into is how to reduce the price of manufacturing these drugs. ChatGPT makes a lot of headlines. New York City public schools are banning ChatGPT from their computers and devices and network. Now, I have a word for a New York City school. I have something to say. Listen, guys, it's ridiculous. It's like saying we are preventing the internet. Now, why am I saying that? You might know or you might not know, $9 billion of ChatGPT, of money that was invested in ChatGPT, came from Microsoft. Yes, the same Microsoft that is competing with Google on a search engine. Probably most of the people don't even know. Microsoft also has a search engine. It's called Bing. Now, they're going to integrate ChatGPT into Bing. So now, New York City schools are going to ban Bing and favor Google, but do you think that Google is not going to fight ChatGPT with their own chat, Google PT or whatever it would be? So at the end of the day, this is a bad decision coming out of fear, and I think this should be reversed very quickly. Now, to a point, just to show you how the market sees that, the market is increasing year over year. You can see the dramatic increase in 2021 and 2022. 2022, remember, wasn't a good year for investments. Increased investment in generative AI. A lot of money is being poured in. This is not going to stand, at least my opinion. I think it's a bad decision. And of course, ChatGPT this week and Sam Altman, the creator, are trying to sell shares, actually raised $29 billion on valuation. There's a lot of questions, of course, about how can you value a technology so disruptive when the product might not be the chat itself. It might be a layer on the infrastructure where every app, everyone would kind of connect through APIs. So there's a lot of discussions around that. This is one of the hottest themes for 2023. So this is the second one already. DNA sequencing and ChatGPT. One of things that are not that good, at least for the employees, but good for the market. Amazon is saying they're going to cut 18,000 of their employees. And these are white-collar employees. These are not low-level employees. Amazon grew very rapid, and now they're cutting costs. Same for Salesforce. Amazon ticker AMZN, Salesforce ticker CRM, also cutting 10%. There's a question if it's 5,000 employees or 7,000 in the case of Salesforce because it's 10%, but they have some subsidiaries, so it's a bit more complicated, but they're at least leaning on saving between $1.4 and $2.1 billion through this change. McDonald's hasn't announced exactly what, but they announced that they're going to do something. So McDonald's is next on the list, and Vimeo, reducing actually in a form they filed during the week, they're reducing their headcount by approximately 11%. They filed this form 8K to the SEC, the Security and Exchange. Apple, innovating around the Apple Pencil. They're going to, at least the rumor is, that they're going to patent the ability to sample colors from real-world life and then bring them back to the iPads. Very interesting innovation. Would that move the needle in Apple? A big question in the background. In China, we get all this good news, and now it's continuing. It seems like Chinese people are starting to understand that COVID might have peaked. The reason why Sofia Orto Acosta actually mentioned that is because subways are starting to get filled again. We saw that in New York. We saw it in other cities. When people are fearful of COVID, subways are empty. When subways become more occupied, it means that they believe that it's behind them. And also, we can see that Hong Kong is also opening up to China. Real estate, the government is starting to help real estate. China wants to get back on its feet. But Dell doesn't really like China. So Dell looks to divest anything that happens in China, and they plan to phase out made in China chips by 2024. Very fast, very swift. A big question where they're going to produce instead, whether it's going to be India or someplace else. But another step of a U.S. company that takes a step back from China. Very interesting development. China is in talks with Pfizer over a generic COVID drug. Very interesting, part of getting their population vaccinated. It would be an amazing deal for Pfizer, of course, ticker PFE. And last thing, and that is the reason why chip stocks ran so fast in the last few days, including Micron and Nvidia and AMD, is because China has decided to pause their giant chip spending aim. They wanted to create their own, the equivalent of Taiwan Semiconductors or the equivalent of Micron. And right now they're focusing more domestic, and they actually, at least from what we know, they paused that. And that's very interesting to hear. By the way, I haven't said it so far, so I'm going to say right now, anything you see here is not financial advice. I didn't put the disclaimer at the beginning, but I'm saying it right now. None of it is financial advice. Let's go back to the headlines. Apple started hiring workers in India, and it looks like they're going to open their first flagship store. Apple, that is moving production to India, is now going double down on India. The biggest economy, or actually the biggest population in the world, going to be the biggest population in the world, 2023. Macy's warning holiday quarter sales will come in light, reducing the forecast. The stock right at the close, they reported it at the close of Friday. Stock went down around 4%. We'll see how Monday opens up for Macy's. Not a good sign for the market, and of course, probably not a good sign for other retailers, which we might hear also during the week. Auto sales came light on 2022 across the board. Chip shortage was one of the reasons at the beginning of the year, if you all remember, and now probably we are or not in a recession. So car sales, auto sales, down in 2022. The worst year over a decade, as you can see. Tesla in China, as of Thursday or Friday, cuts their price once again. And also introducing the higher-end models as S and X. The price cuts were on Model 3 and Model Y, trying to compete with BYD, trying to compete in a very aggressive Chinese market. A lot of lines around the stores, and two kind of versions of why the lines are there. Version number one, people want to buy, and the website is down. That's one of the reasons. Version number two, customers that bought came back and say, we overpaid, we want the discount as well. Now, since no one really knows the right answer, you can take both of them as 50% this and 50% that. So half of the people ordering new Teslas, half of the people complaining that they got their Tesla and overpaid, which makes a lot of sense, actually. Continuing on, Intel expands their performance leadership in world fastest mobile processor. Actually, that's their PR. They're not really dominant in the fastest mobile processor, but they did release their next generation or new 13 generation, which would be in 13 different laptop designs. So Shopify takes everything to the next level. They want to become the go-to for big retail clients. They already have a few like Mattel, Glossier, Coty, and Steve Madden. And Staples, of course. They want to have a lot more. Shopify creates an online e-commerce website and other abilities for big retailers, and they're going very rapid in that pace. And also, they're saying to their employees, stop spending time in meetings. Remove all the recurring meetings from your calendar if you have more than 3 people. And they're recurring, just remove them from calendars. No more meetings on a Wednesday. So if you come into Shopify on Wednesday, there will be no meetings. People need to start working. And big meetings of more than 50 can only happen in a 6-hour window on Thursdays with a limit of only once a week. Shopify identifies that there's a lot of waste in the time of their employees, and they want to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. Sam Bankman-Fried came back to New York from San Francisco from his parents' house in order to plead not guilty, but his lieutenants have already provided all the information to indict him. So he's behind the scenes. There are a lot of rumors that he's working on a plea deal that he might not spend life in prison, although it's probably going to be a lot of time in prison if he's indicted. And everyone is, of course, not guilty until proven otherwise. Amazon is going to enter the electricity trading. Ticker AMZN, believe it or not. Amazon wants to buy electricity and sell electricity. Might be a very interesting business for Amazon. It's not in their core business. It's not part of who they are. But guess what? Amazon wants to enter that arena as well. Chewy looks to automate a lot of their fulfillment centers, and by that, reduce costs, but improve customer satisfaction, meaning opening more distribution centers or fulfillment centers, but having it automized with robots. Chewy, ticker CHWY, meaning that they have a lot of business and they feel they can improve their margins. Let's see, that would be interesting. Beyond Meat, the plant-based company, is right now adding steak to their menu and selling that in Costco. And if we're talking about Beyond Meat, ticker BYND, Costco, ticker COST. And if we're talking about Costco, Costco ended December with an increase of 7% year over year in their sales. People love their Costco, don't you? Yes, we love our Costco, whether it's to fuel our car or just buy in bulk. Everyone loves their Costco, and they're seeing their loyalty program being very, very strong and sticky. Roku introduces smart TV. Roku finally understands that if they're not going to sell the TV, someone's going to sell a smart TV without Roku inside, and they understand they have to compete in that segment. It's not a very lucrative segment, but they cannot expand their lucrative business, which is streaming, and of course, all the advertising without the hardware behind it. We'll see if that would be the success that they're looking for. And next time you're flying in Delta, you can see YouTube while you're flying. Delta launches a free Wi-Fi program over their planes. I'm not sure yet if it's all the planes or it's going to be a rollout. But now, no more paying for Wi-Fi. Could you believe? I remember times when Wi-Fi was very, very, very expensive. Actually, it was a few months ago. Let's continue. Bed Bath & Beyond, actually not that hilarious, are probably going to go out of business. They're very close. Their market cap is now under $250 million. Ticker BBBY. They're warning that they're going to go out of business. So they're rapid pace there. Avatar, Disney's Avatar, Disney, ticker DIS, might reach the $2 billion. It might overpass Top Gun Maverick. And there are several reasons for that. One is tickets cost more. People want to see it in 3D, 4D, IMAX. And second reason is because it's more of a family film. So more people are coming in. They have two more, if I'm not mistaken, two more in the franchise called Avatar, coming in the years ahead. I think next year and the year after would be very interesting because they really believe in this franchise of Avatar. And Stellantis, the mother brand of Jeep, Chrysler, and Ram, is launching a new business unit to turn their vehicle data into cash. I didn't even know they're gathering vehicle data, but apparently they are. And if they are, they want to sell it to whoever wants to pay them money. Very interesting development, ticker STLA. It's like Tesla, but the S and the T are kind of opposite sides. And Walmart, ticker WMT. Apparently, over 6,000 deliveries were done by drones. If in your area you see Walmart drones, write it in the comments below. It would be very interesting to see that. And that was the week, or actually the summary of last week, week number 1. Now we are entering one of the most important weeks in 2023, in one of the most important months in 2023. The reason for that, this week we're going to get the CPI. This week we're going to get earnings. You know what? Why am I speaking about that? Let's just see that. So Thursday, Jan 12, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, core inflation, CPI. Everyone is waiting for a very, very low number. It's going to be very, very troubling if we're going to get a higher number. But if we're going to get a very low number, the market's going to keep rallying like there's no tomorrow. So CPI on a Thursday. Everyone's waiting for that. And Friday, here we go again. Earnings season. We have Bank of America, United Health, JP Morgan, Delta, Citi, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, Bank of New York Mellon, First Republic Bank, and Wipro starting to report on Friday. And of course, on Thursday, we have Taiwan Semiconductors. But everyone is looking for the banks. The banks are our bellwether to understand what is going on with the consumer, what is going on in the capital markets, how are they seeing the future. Up to now, they were very, very, very gloomy on the forecast. I remind everyone that Jamie Dimon says a hurricane is on its way. Let's see what he's going to say at the end of this week. A very dramatic week. And when we look at the charts, this is how the S&P looks like. We're still in a downward trend. We haven't changed that downward trend, although we had a very strong Friday with a lot of volume coming in. But the trend is still intact. The trend is a downward trend. When you look at everything that happened in the last 2 weeks, and every day here is a candle. These are Japanese candles. Anyone that is not familiar to them, you can see that basically we haven't really moved an inch. So if I'll change it to a line chart, you can see that basically we've moved sideways, meaning the market is not decisive on what they want to do. Does the market want to go up? Does the market want to drop? We will only see in the next few days. And I do think that in the next week or two, we will see the decision. Whether the decision is going to drop and test the October lows, which might bring the S&P to around 3,500, or everything is behind us and we're going to the moon. Now, of course, it's not that easy, but we shall see in the next 2 to 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I'll give myself another week. So thanks again for joining. If you reach this point, smash that like button because you probably enjoyed everything you saw. And I remind everyone, everything you see here is, of course, not financial advice. Till next time, I'm Micha Stock with Stock Talk with Micha Stocks. Thank you for watching.